And I'd like to introduce my next speaker, but before I do that, I want to mention, you may wonder why I focus on the biographies for the speakers. And sometimes it's very embarrassing to the speaker because, to hear things about yourself is perhaps a little bit self-effacing. But the point is I want everybody to know that the people that we've invited, that we're bringing up, are people that have very specific experiences and are at a certain level of achievement in the business. The man, for example, from Bose, who has been hired by Bose to lead their charge into the meeting rooms, and the man from Google who worked and is attributed as the inventor of the Jamboard. And the rest of the people here that you're hearing from, we've brought them in because they do have some visionary and some achievements to share. And for example, in our last presentation, the Barco ClickShare has certainly been leading the way and showing the industry a lot about how to develop the meeting room. I'd like to introduce my next speaker. And do you prefer Deborah or Deborah?
Deborah.
I prefer Deborah, because from my part of the world. Deborah Hawkins is the Associate Director of Keypoint Intelligence. Her responsibilities, as Associate Director within the Office Document Technologies Group includes conducting primary research and analysis, creating forecasts and market size estimates for the copier, printer hardware, software, and solution markets globally. And she's had more than 20 years of experience in the office imaging and print-on-demand industries. And she's bringing us some very interesting research today, for which I thank her.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bob. And greetings to everyone. With a background in the document industry, I seem to be the only presenter here with paper today, but some of us have to do something for the paper industry. My task, as you've heard, is to provide some insight on what IT decision makers are saying about smart workplace. See if I can get the technology to work. No? That's a good start. Press. Oh, okay. For those of you not familiar with Keypoint Intelligence, we're a company that houses two brands, Buyers Lab and InfoTrends. Buyers Lab, or BLI, is an independent lab and testing house which provides competitive intelligence on hardware and software for printing and imaging industries. InfoTrends is an analyst house, and I actually come from the analyst part of our company. And we have been tracking, forecasting, and analyzing printing and imaging for many decades. Our legacy, as I said, is the printing industry, where we focus on documents and how these are consumed, what element is on paper, and what element is electronic, and how the changes within that mix are actually changing needs for office equipment. And that could be whether you use it in the home, on the road, in the office, or in a production environment. We are seeing a huge shift towards the IT space, away from documents and towards IT, which is very, very similar to what's happening in the AV industry. Today, office equipment needs are very much about integration with disparate systems and providing services or delivering them via the cloud. So this lovely gentleman, Chester Carlson, actually developed the imaging process which led to the first photocopier, which was launched in 1959. And that was one of the very, very first steps in our industry towards document automation. It was called duplication or reproduction at that time. Me personally, I've not been around for quite that long, but I have been in the industry for almost 30 years now, and we've already seen many, many transitions into spaces like the introduction of color into our documents, or book scanning, or multifunctionality. And we talk today very much about two sides of the house. On the one side, we see the product silo, and on the other side of the house, we see IT. And siloed products, they can be printers, but they can also be scanners, they can be AV equipment, they can be projectors, whiteboards. And the link between the two sides of the house is what's in the middle, the integration of products with IT systems. Probably great parallels that you're seeing with the AV market today. Vendors and resellers alike are crying out for differentiators in this IT space. And smart workplace is one area that has great potential to bring new impetus. The vision of smart workplace is a highly digitized environment where workers can move freely from single to group workspace, present and collaborate easily, a slightly different picture from the one that you see here. And as we move along a journey, let me give you the whole picture here. As we move along a journey of evolution, we're seeing the old house joining with new house, driven by leading trends and soft influences. On the inner pie chart here, you can see a number of trends which are driving office equipment, but probably also similar trends that are driving AV. Sustainability, workflow, security, apps, and cloud. They're all very, very similar in relative technology areas, but it's really the soft influences such as the pace of change on the outer circle, the pace of change or the consumerization of IT or the changing workforce or work styles that are molding our lives and, very importantly, the customer's expectations. At KPI, we have developed this taxonomy to describe segments of smart workplace as they have emerged. Smart technology is everywhere already. It's fundamentally changed the way we do many things, from phones to digital assistants, thermostats, lights, and blind, just to name a few. And we've come to a definition and allocation of segment areas that you can see here. So by definition, a smart workplace is one in which employees can perform their tasks or work more efficiently by using smart devices. But aren't we already buying smart technology? Well, if you look here at some of our survey results from IT decision makers, smart workplace is not making a significant impact on IT spending yet. This just comes from a survey which was taken in November of last year, and it was directed at IT decision makers in the UK and in Germany. And you're seeing on the left-hand side here SMB, so small and medium businesses, which are those with less than 250 employees, and on the right-hand side, responses from enterprise, more than 250 employees. And if we look at IT budget allocation over time, we're seeing significant increases in software associated with storing or archiving documents, mobile devices, security, and cloud services. Sadly, that's not what we call smart workplace today. So we do have a small issue here because, of course, if a company has not budgeted for something, then they're not allowed to invest in it. So maybe we start by calling it something different. Many smart workplace technologies are already being called a cloud service, a collaboration service, molding all together today. As an industry, we are going to have to do a lot to make a lot of noise around smart place to get it recognized and to get this to become an evolving technology area that people will invest in and will recognize. One of the other big issues, the differences between small and enterprise, is of course the fact that small companies, particularly those less than 50 employees, are far less open to changing IT environments and more likely to remain with their current systems. From a print perspective, those of you looking from AV, you might think that printers are dumb. Not so. Most manufacturers in the printing space have already been on a transformation path the past decade, and this has evolved so that we now have many smart and sophisticated devices out there that are connected and integrated with the cloud. Data from the device is incorporated into other systems. Analytics about device usage are used on a regular basis to automatically reorder toner or parts. And the actual document content and type can now be identified during the scan process and pulled into many different systems, for example, invoice systems. So it's become pretty smart already, but not something that you would probably have thought of as being part of smart workplace. But what of smart workplace investments? Those same IT decision makers from the UK and Germany were asked from this list of technologies you can see on the far left-hand side, which they had already invested in, which they were considering investing in, and which they were unlikely to invest in. In terms of already invested, at the top of the list, 50% of our respondents indicated they'd already invested in document automation. And of course, that's not just one product. Remember the one from Chester Carlton? It can be many things today. It can be scan, it can be workflow tool, it can be templates. So that's everything that we would pack into document automation. That is top of the list today. There's also a lot of out there in the market that can serve that trend. We also saw a very large jump around document automation in the past couple of years due to GDPR. If we switch to the other end of the scale, so looking onto the bottom right of this graph here, look at those technologies that IT decision makers are most unlikely to invest in. We've got here 45% for robots and virtual receptionists. And then in the middle of this graph, the orange area, we have a rather large range of technologies where considering investment is very high. Whether it's HVAC, so heating, ventilation, AV, at 45%, or smart security cameras at 43%. And voice-controlled automation also pretty high at 40%. So once we know there is we know that there's a willingness to invest. That was pretty clear from this survey. But what about the details of who's investing exactly? Here you can see the same data as on the previous slide, but this is now split by company size. So the IT decision makers were put into there. Which company size do you work for? 1 to 49, up to the very highest 500 plus on the right-hand side. And the results have been meaned here, so from responses of 1 to 3, likely to invest, unlikely to invest, or already invested, those are meaned into one single number. The first thing you can see here is that in the 1 to 49 group, so the smallest company size group, has a significantly lower propensity to invest in anything. Sorry about that. But from 50 plus employees onwards, there's a pretty similar trend line in terms of willingness to invest and similar patterns of the very highest, as I was saying previously, document automation, then either smart security cameras or HVAC, and then collaboration and conferencing systems. Collaboration and conferencing systems is actually particularly strong in the 500 plus enterprises. And remember, this is now. So this is what's happening right now. One other very important finding is that as the IT decision maker gets older, we see less openness for investment in smart workplace, particularly the baby boomer generation. It's just to beware. Doesn't mean you can't talk to those people older than 54 anymore, but they definitely are not as open as those that are younger. In terms of the sweet spot for smart workplace investment, we very clearly see the decision maker below the age of 38 is the one that is most likely to invest today. When we look at what makes smart technology favorable, we see a very, very clear pattern. The top 5 reasons are it's innovative, it saves time, reduces human error, it expedites processes, and number 5, it saves money. This is actually a very, very favorable slide because we're not just in this industry to save money. We're in there to be innovative in the first line. And that is a very, very welcome thing in any market for technology products. We also looked or asked the same survey respondents their opinions on various office trends and concepts. You're seeing here the results from SMB only, so below 250 employees. If you look at the black area, you see already adopted and still using at its highest for flexible working hours and working from home. So those are strongest in the small companies. These smaller companies also have the least interests in adopting concepts such as rented workspaces shared with others. These office concepts and acceptance of them is directly related to smart workplace tools, and those service providers will be well placed to look carefully at some of this detail. The generational trend of the younger or more tech-savvy worker is also playing a key role to influence workplace style, well-being, and productivity. If we look at enterprise, so the larger company group, what kind of office concepts and trends would they be interested in? We see a shift to the bottom left, a much higher desire here to adopt freelance and gig economy concepts. As with smart workplace technology, the age of the IT decision maker plays a role in the adoption of new office trends and concepts, as does the company size. It's definitely a task for service providers to approach potential clients with the interests and needs of new generations of workers in mind, who are far likely to be impressed by office well-being, collaboration tools, and many more. And one more nugget of information, we're also seeing less acceptance for cloud-based solutions in the older IT decision maker community. So the definitions here range from, do you look, is your attitude to cloud, is it positive, negative, cautious, or neutral? We are seeing the 54 plus age group, if you add together their negative and cautious, that is already making up 40% of those that are more likely to be negative or cautious about cloud-based solutions. So, by way of summary, an investment in smart workplace technology is an investment in the entire office, and we're seeing lots of examples of this. We've heard about this morning, as well as we can see out on the show floor. It's all about streamlining tasks and processes along with creating efficiencies. But remember also those people are looking, those decision makers are recognizing that this is innovative technology and something to invest in. It can apply to all facets of the working environment, figuratively and literally. And the last but most important message is, of course, smart technology from the buyer side. It's about now. People are investing in it right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For time, we'd like to have questions. I'm not sure we have time for a lot. Is there anybody that'd like to ask a question at this point? Because if not, we'll just keep moving and then we'll let them come to you in that. But
sure.
Thank you very much for sharing all that original research.